Hey guys, welcome back. I hope you are having an amazing day. Let's get right into the stories. The first story is titled, Trespasser Demands I Replace His Car. Okay, so I'm going to preface this post by saying that the entrance to my property is a standard driveway through roughly 20 meters of wooded area before the driveway opens up to about the same size as a standard American two-lane roadway. My home sits about 500 meters back off of the road, and I've sculpted my driveway, as well as a pass in front of my home and a lot of my backyard, into a drift track. We have two giant no trespassing signs at the road-facing side of the woods, as well as a speed limit 15 inches sign 10 meters beyond the woods, mainly to remind my friends not to be dickheads on their way in when the track isn't hot. Everything is above board with the county, my homeowner's insurance, and local PD. Now, with that out of the way, I went to the port today to pick up a much-awaited 1997 Nissan Stagea we are building for my mate. As the mate and I are pulling down the drive in the truck, pulling the trailer W/the car on it, my mate yells, "What in the hell is that?" and points off to the corner of the paved part of my property where I have a medium-sized shed which I keep landscaping things like a tractor, golf cart, etc. in. I look over to see the nose of a 2016 to 2017 Mustang stick out of a now-collapsed shed and a guy lying on the pavement next to it. We immediately drove straight over with haste. As we pull up, our EP sits up from his prone position and starts yelling about suing me, calling me an AH and a bunch of other names. I yelled as loud as I could, "Hey!" Then said, "Who the F are you and what are you doing on my property? Why is your car in my shed?" To which EP responds, "I'm going to sue you as your racetrack isn't safe and you owe me a new car." By this point, my mate is already on the phone W/911 and has hopped back into the truck. I explain to EP that he's trespassing and in fact he owes me a shed and probably a few other things, including a tractor. EP starts to limp toward me, screaming that he's going to own my property and I won't have a pot to piss in when he's done with me. I decide to just get back into the truck and wait on the police. Roughly 15 minutes later, two police cars come screaming down my drive with their lights and sirens on and see EP beating on the window of my truck with his hands. PD immediately handcuff him and then my mate and I step out of the truck. EP told police that he has been driving past my property all summer and hearing engines and tires squelching from the roadway and finally decided that he was going to run a few laps today. That he saw the no trespassing signs but didn't think they were there for him. Who else would they be there for, though? EP was arrested for malicious destruction of property. A tow company in town came and impounded his vehicle, and I was finally able to see that the entire shed and everything in it is a total loss. EP did leave in an ambulance, though he should be fine. Insurance is going to have a field day with this one. I'd just like to add that that particular shed sits 25 feet off of the paved surface. I really hope next year doesn't have as many stressful events as this one. I'm starting by adding a gate with a code to enter the property this week. It's unfortunate that I have to go to these lengths, but I guess some people just can't read signs or understand the concept of private property. As a side note, I'm grateful that my mate and I were able to catch this guy in the act before he caused any more damage to my property or himself. It's also a good reminder to always be vigilant and keep an eye out for any unusual activity on your property. In any case, I'm just glad that no one was seriously injured, and I hope that this incident serves as a warning to anyone else who might be thinking of trespassing on my property. As for me, I'll be working with my insurance company to figure out how to replace the shed and its contents, and I'll be taking steps to improve the security of my property to prevent any further incidents like this from happening in the future. Overall, it's been a stressful day, but I'm grateful for my mate's quick thinking and the prompt response of the police. Here's hoping that things calm down from here on out. In my opinion, this story highlights the importance of respecting private property and following posted signs. It's unfortunate that the EP in this story didn't seem to understand this basic principle and caused significant damage to the property as a result. It's also interesting to see how the property owner was able to handle the situation calmly and responsibly by calling the police and working with their insurance company to address the damage. Overall, it's a cautionary tale that serves as a reminder of the importance of being mindful of others' property and the consequences of ignoring posted signs. The next story is titled, HOA Claims I Must Join Them and Threatens to Fine Me If I Don't Remove My Illegal Pool. I had always loved my quiet and peaceful neighborhood where I had lived with my family for the past 15 years. We had a beautiful home with a big yard and a pool that my two daughters loved. But that peace was about to be shattered when the HOA was formed. The HOA was something that I had been against from the beginning, but more than enough people voted for it to form. I refused to sign the papers that would make my family and I join them because I did not agree with their rules. The HOA had unreasonable rules that would cause a lot of heartbreak and expenses for my family and me. One of the rules was that we could not have any large dogs, which was ridiculous because we had 2 beloved dogs that were part of our family. The next rule was that no houses could have in-ground pools, which was even more unreasonable because we had a pool that we had installed before the HOA was formed. The third issue was that our home was not aligned with the rules and regulations they were putting in place for the aesthetics of the neighborhood. At first, I thought I could reason with the HOA and find a compromise, but it was clear that they were unwilling to budge. They gave everyone 3 months to fix all the violations, but it would be unreasonably expensive. I was determined to find a good lawyer and fight the violations, especially the ones regarding the pool and dogs, since this was stuff that I had before the HOA. With extensive research, I was able to find a lawyer that specialized in HOA cases. We went through all the regulations and found that some of them were not even legal, and they could not force us to make the changes they were demanding. We were able to present our case and win against the HOA, but the victory was not easy. The HOA members were not happy about losing the case, and they were angry with me for taking them to court. The tension between us grew, and things started to get ugly. I received threatening letters from the HOA members, and they even went as far as vandalizing my home. I was scared for my family's safety, and I knew I had to do something. I hired a security company to install cameras around my property and hired a lawyer to help me file a restraining order against the HOA members who had been threatening me. The legal battle was long and exhausting, but I finally won, and the HOA members were ordered to stay away from me and my family. After the victory, the neighborhood was still divided, and there was still a sense of animosity towards me and my family. I knew that I had to find a way to bring the community together, and I came up with an idea. I decided to host a neighborhood block party at my home, where everyone could come together and celebrate our victory. I invited all the neighbors, including the HOA members, hoping that we could put the past behind us and move forward. At first, the party was going well, and everyone seemed to be enjoying themselves. But as the night progressed, tensions began to rise, and things quickly spiraled out of control. The HOA members had too much to drink, and they began to cause trouble, insulting me and my family, and causing damage to our property. It was a chaotic scene, and I knew that I had to take action to protect my family and my home. I called the police, and they arrived on the scene quickly, arresting the HOA members responsible for the damage and disturbances. The neighborhood was in shock, and it was clear that things were not going to be the same again. The aftermath of the block party was a difficult time for my family and me. We were shaken up by the events that had transpired, and we felt more isolated than ever before. But I refused to give up on our community. I continued to reach out to my neighbors, hoping to rebuild the relationships that had been damaged. Slowly but surely, things began to improve. My neighbors who had previously supported the HOA began to see the flaws in their reasoning and apologized for their actions. We began to work together to create a new set of rules for the neighborhood, ones that were fair and reasonable for everyone. In the end, we were able to come to a compromise that satisfied both sides. We were able to keep our pool and our dogs, but we also agreed to some minor changes that would help improve the appearance of the neighborhood. We all learned an important lesson about the importance of compromise and communication. Update. It's been a few years since the HOA debacle, and I'm happy to say that the neighborhood has become a much more harmonious place. We've all learned to respect each other's differences and work together to create a community that we can all be proud of. Our block parties are now a regular occurrence, and they're a great opportunity for us all to come together and celebrate our community. We've even started a neighborhood watch program to help keep our streets safe. Looking back on the whole experience, I realized that it was a difficult time, but it was also a valuable lesson. It taught me the importance of standing up for what I believe in, even when it's not easy, and it showed me that sometimes even the most contentious conflicts can be resolved through communication and compromise. I'm proud to be a member of this community, and I'm grateful to my neighbors for working with me to create a better, more welcoming place to call home. In my opinion, this story is a great example of how conflict can arise in even the most peaceful of neighborhoods. It's understandable that people want to preserve the appearance of their community, but sometimes the rules put in place can seem arbitrary and unfair. I admire the protagonist for standing up for what they believe in, even when it wasn't easy, and for finding a way to bring the community back together in the end. It's a reminder that compromise and communication are key to resolving conflicts and building a better community. The next story is titled, My Mom Feels Entitled to My Inheritance Money. She wants to use it to put a down payment on a house. I only found out about it 6 years later because I looked into a cabinet in our house and did some research. I, 24F, found out earlier this year that I was supposed to receive around $160,000 in inheritance money when my father passed away. I found out by looking into a cabinet in our house. I was compelled to do so because my mother acts rich or poor whenever it suits her and exhibits other strange behavior. I found a letter that was addressed specifically to me from the life insurance company that had my inheritance. All I needed to do was submit some paperwork and they'd give me a check. I'm not sure how, but my mother somehow submitted documents for me and even cashed the check that was in my name. I'm also not sure why she felt entitled to it when she got $500K in inheritance herself. When I confronted her about it, she obviously did not take it well. She was very adamant that it's her money, until I informed her that after I found the documents, I called the life insurance company and received photocopies of the check, the submitted documents, etc. After I told her that, she tried negotiating with me, stating that she can give me $10,000 to start with, and then $2,000 every month. I said no. I said she will guilt me into delaying her payments if we go that route. She tells me she will be homeless if I get all the money at once. I eventually make her show me her bank statements. As far as I know, she has around $330,000. In addition, she's been making 6 figures with her job for the past 3 years. Homeless, my ass. I told her I need a good amount of money if I want to have any chance of moving out. I wanted to move out with my friend, but my mom took way too long to give me any money. I received $50,000 from her. Like a week or so later, she started asking if she could borrow $20,000 for a month. She said she needs it in her bank account so that the lender can approve of the condo or house she wants to buy. She asked if I will be okay, and I stupidly told her that I'd be getting grants from school too. She then wanted to borrow $20K on top of the grant money by passive-aggressively mentioning it whenever she could. A few weeks later, she forced me to go with her to the bank to withdraw $20,000. This was on October 3rd. On November 23rd, I asked her to give me $2,000. I told her it's been almost 2 months and I want a portion of it back, via text. She gives me the silent treatment, in text and in person. The next day I try calling her. She starts crying hysterically, saying, I knew I shouldn't have trusted you with money. What are you doing? Drugs? Are you gambling? Why are you so mean? You ruined my holiday. You've ruined my life. You're abnormal. You're just doing this because you're behind in your life and you're desperate. You don't have utilities to pay for. I spent so much money on food the past month. I'm not exaggerating when I say I've never told her to buy me food or make me food, but she always uses it as a form of guilt. A couple of days later, we have a 4-hour argument. During this argument, I was so disgusted with her behavior that I told her that I want nothing to do with her. A couple of days after that, to my surprise, she came into my room and asked me to hug her. She started crying and said that she just suppresses her thoughts and feelings. She said she'll give me $500,000 now and then $500,000 on December 22nd. What the hell? I swallowed my anger for a couple of days, but then I could no longer hold it in. I wasn't giving her the silent treatment, but I wasn't looking at her or initiating any form of talking. She noticed this and started asking what's wrong. She said, "It's the money, isn't it?" and then repeated the same things she did last time. "Are you gambling? You have no utilities, etc." And again, she made it very clear that she wants to buy a condo or a house. I just can't remember which. I told her I'm mad at her because you told me you needed $20K for a month. It's been over 2 months and now you're still not giving it, so you lied. After this, she started acting like she was about to cry, and then she left the house. She then transferred another $500,000. I haven't talked to her since. It infuriates me that she thinks she's entitled to this money. Why do you need a house? You're getting old and you're single. Secondly, not only was this money only in your account in the first place because you committed fraud, but now I let you borrow money and you're going to treat it like it's an allowance. It's my money, legally! Get over it! You already got $500,000 before you took my money. Since I was 18, I've been working minimum wage jobs. She's made it so clear as day that she thinks her needs are way above mine. I don't have utilities, I don't have a career yet, so I'm less important. Even if that's factually true, I'm your child and that money is legally mine. Also, I just want to share this example of her behavior that I just remembered. When I was 19, I was working at a tutoring place in addition to a restaurant while taking 16 units in college with no car. I was leaving the house one day to go get a haircut. My mom then asked me, "Where are you going?" I told her I'm going to get a haircut. She then says, verbatim, "Really? You're supposed to be using that money to help me." That's how entitled she is. At this point, she received $660,000, while her child, who is a full-time student with 2 jobs and no car, is not important enough to use the money they earned from their job to get a haircut. I'm so mad, and I just have a huge problem with getting this taken care of because I hate making people uncomfortable. This is also why I usually cannot blindside a person by randomly bringing an issue up. I usually have to text them first, but I'm starting to think that that's never a good idea. Ugh. In my opinion, this story is a sad example of how greed and entitlement can poison even the closest family relationships. It's disappointing to see how the mother in this story is willing to go to such lengths to take money that is rightfully her daughter's. It's also unfortunate to see how the daughter is struggling to assert her own rights in this situation. Hopefully, they can find a way to resolve this issue and repair their relationship in the process. The next story is titled, I take an entitled woman's cart full of groceries. I'm a man in my 50s and I am at Walmart. I hear a girl in her 20s who works at the store nicely say, "Excuse me, ladies." I see 2 entitled women in their 40s talking in front of the doors that the workers use to restock the store. The entitled women look at the worker with the disdain of royalty being interrupted by a filthy peasant. The worker, with her empty supply cart, again tells the entitled women that she needs to get through. Again, the entitled women blow her off with pursed lips and a dirty look. Now, I have a particular sensitivity to people mistreating workers, and these women have disrupted my delicate sensibilities. I walk past the entitled women, snagging one of the carts full of groceries, and I take off. It takes them a moment to notice before they pursue me. I quickly traverse the back aisle and turn the corner towards the front of the store. One of the entitled women tries to pull the cart away from me, but I make it all the way to the front of the store before letting go. I make a clean getaway and go back to get my cart. Next to the restock doors is the other woman's cart. Now, before you call me the a-hole, I'm fully aware, but these people needed to be taught a lesson, and I'm just the one compelled to step up. I grab the cart and head off to the camping section. I take the cold stuff from the cart. I needed milk and eggs anyway, so bonus. Later I felt bad that some Walmart worker would have to restock the cart from the camping section. When I went back, the cart was gone. This happened like a year ago and I didn't think much about it. The other day I was at a restaurant with my extended family. One of the waitresses kept looking at me. It took me a while to put it together. When she walked past, I said, "Didn't you used to work at Walmart?" She got excited and exclaimed that she thought it was me. I had a haircut and lost some weight since then. She filled me in on the aftermath. The ladies complained to the manager that a guy tried to steal their stuff for no reason. The manager figured there was more to the story. The entitled women wanted the manager to find me and have me arrested. The worker girl told her what really happened, and it has since become store folklore. I told her I posted the story in Am I the A-hole and got voted the A-hole. She said, "You're not an a-hole, you are a legend." My sister told her another similar story from when we were kids, but I'll save that one for another day. In my opinion, the story depicts a situation where someone takes a stand against entitled behavior towards a store worker. While the approach of taking someone else's cart may seem controversial, it's clear that the intention was to teach a lesson rather than harm the entitled women. The story also highlights the impact of one's actions and how it can create a ripple effect that leads to unintended consequences. Overall, the story serves as a reminder to treat others with respect, regardless of their social status or profession. The next story is titled, Don't Cut in Front of a Parent with Their Child, and Then Ask Us to Take Your Photo. We lived in Japan for 2 fantastic years, and one of the things my kids loved to do was go to Universal Studios Japan, particularly the Sanrio area. The kids couldn't get enough of Hello Kitty. Apparently, neither could grown-ass adults. Midday at the park, they dress up some poor soul as Hello Kitty to come out and greet the horde of fans. That day, there were probably 100+ people surrounding the mascot. Well, my kids wanted a picture with the huge furry feline, so I sighed, got in the back of the line, and patiently waited. We were finally next in line when a middle-aged woman dressed in cat attire cut in front of my 6-year-old and me. We were shocked and didn't immediately react. Was this grown-up seriously cutting in front of a line of children? Then, before I had a chance to say anything, she turned around and asked me to take her picture with Hello Kitty. I could hear a chorus of grumbling behind us. At this point, I was ready to throw her iPhone into the fountain, but I thought for a second, smiled, and agreed. I took multiple pictures in portrait and landscape modes, each time coaching her for the cutest poses. A few people behind us were gleefully watching over my shoulder as I either put my finger over her face or cut her head off every single photo. The middle-aged cat lady thanked me and left so she could check the photos away from the crowd. We took our photos with the cat. They turned out great. And as we walked away, we saw the lady angrily scrolling through her photos. The mascot's allotted time was also up about that time, so she didn't have a chance to go back and retake her photos. In my opinion, the story showcases an instance of selfish behavior in a public place, where a middle-aged woman cuts in line and then asks for a favor from the person she cut in front of. It is interesting to see how the protagonist of the story handles the situation with patience, and even manages to get a bit of revenge with the pictures. The story also highlights the popularity of Hello Kitty, not just among kids, but also adults. Overall, it's a relatable and entertaining story. The last story is titled, "A Big Group Thinks They Own the Forest Because They Come All the Time." A few months ago, towards the end of the season in this area, I went camping with my friends. We were 3 women. The spot we chose was on a cliff with a great view of a canyon and the creek at the bottom. The area allows dispersed camping, and there are very few spots with that view, and it's first come, first serve. When we arrived, only one spot was left, with the view hidden behind trees but only a few feet away. The view could only be accessed by walking straight through our camp. I think there are other spots you can hike to without going through a campsite. On our first night there, a couple, 2 men, walked into our camp saying they wanted to see the view. I wasn't super comfortable because you can't trust a stranger in a forest, and they were in our space, but they were only there for a few minutes and left. The next day, we went to watch the sunset on the cliff and had left all our stuff lying around camp when we started hearing cars, dogs, voices, and screaming kids. 2 cars pulled up to our camp and walked right in, making themselves comfortable. We ran back to see all of our space was completely invaded. Kids were under our tarp and running around the tent poles, people around our fire, etc. We had a small puppy with us that was terrified of the new dog, but these people didn't care. A woman explained that they live nearby and love coming to see the view. I was in absolute shock at the disrespect. Everyone is allowed to enjoy nature, and it was a public spot, but you have to respect if someone is there first. At least have the decency to ask. As they were leaving well after sunset, the same woman said they'd be coming later that night to see the stars. My friends were so angry, and I was still in shock. As they were loading their car, I ran up to them and said the first thing that came to mind. I asked one of the men, "Hey, when you come back later, are you planning on bringing the kids?" "Man, I'm not sure. Why is that?" Me. "Well, the thing is, we're out here to do heavy drugs. We're starting in a few minutes, and things might get pretty wild, and I wouldn't want to expose children to that. You as adults might be able to handle it, but I don't know what will happen. I don't do any drugs and only drink occasionally." They never came back, thank God, and hopefully they learned something about respecting people's space. In my opinion, this story highlights the importance of respecting others' personal space and boundaries, especially in public areas like camping grounds. It's disappointing to see that some people feel entitled to invade others' space just because they have frequented the area before. The protagonist's response to the situation was bold and creative, and it's satisfying to see that it worked in deterring the group from returning. Overall, this story serves as a reminder to always be respectful of others and their space, even in public places. Thank you for watching. I would really appreciate it if you could like the video and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. We'll see you again tomorrow.